And welcome back. So our next element is called Hafnium over here, the last in this group. Now, first of all, can you see that they're wearing similar sort of costumes on these characters? That's because they are titanium, zirconium and hafnium, similar to each other. And also notice that the characters sort of take up more room on the card. They get bigger. That's because they get heavier as you go down. And it's all to do with this number 72. So if you look at its structure, it has 72 protons in the center and 72 electrons whizzing around it. And there's neutrons as well in the center, but they can be a different number. Now, zirconium and hafnium are often found in the ground as a mineral together. But because they're so similar, they're really difficult to separate from each other. So it makes it expensive. And they're finding all sorts of amazing uses for hafnium. Most of it is used in nuclear power, which is a way of us generating electricity. And how it works is, last video, zirconium is used to protect or encase the uranium rods, and neutrons can go through zirconium really easily. But the total opposite happens here with hafnium. Hafnium can absorb neutrons, which means it can slow down the nuclear reactor. Otherwise it can go a little bit crazy. So these are both they're not radioactive themselves, but they're both holding something radioactive because they're both used in nuclear power stations. Also, hafnium is what's called resistant to corrosion, and that means it can resist being attacked by other chemicals or other elements. And it has another superpower as well. If you join hafnium with carbon, it is a compound. A compound is just when you mix different elements together. That compound has a melting temperature of just over 7,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which makes it the highest melting compound with two elements. And then if you throw tungsten into the mix as well, you get the highest melting thing that we've got, a compound. So carbon, hafnium and tungsten, those three things together make a compound which has an incredibly high, super hot melting temperature. Now, it was discovered in 1923 by Costa and Hevensey. Here they are. And they named it after the Latin name for Copenhagen in Denmark. Copenhagen in Denmark. And if you look in the background of the cards, can you see there's some houses from Copenhagen in there as well. Now, when it was discovered in 1923, it was one of 6 missing elements that are on the table. When the table was put together, there were a few gaps. That was one of the elements that was predicted to exist by Dmitry Mendeleev. Now, Dmitry Mendeleev is the Russian scientist who put together the table as we know it today. But there was a few missing ones. But he predicted that that was going to exist. He predicted that it was going to be similar to these two, titanium and zirconium, which it is. And he predicted that it was going to be heavier, which it is. Clever Dmitry. He's a bit of a hero. But there is somebody who is even more amazing than Dmitry Mendeleev, and that is his mum. So the last bit of this video is just all about Dmitry's mum, who was incredible. First of all, she had 14 children. Dmitry was the youngest one, and she had a bit of a bad luck where she was living. Her glass factory, the family had a glass factory, but that burnt down. Her husband, unfortunately, became blind and he passed away. Also bad. But his mum realized that Dmitri was a bit of a clever guy, and she took him, and this was over 150 years ago, so the roads were not particularly good. She took him by a horse-drawn sort of sleigh carriage thing over 2,000 miles across Russia, from Siberia, where they lived, all the way to Moscow to try and get him into university. They wouldn't accept him because he was from Siberia. So then she didn't give up. She then took him to St. Petersburg, where they accepted him. And he ended up becoming the guy who put the most important table in the universe together. Unfortunately, shortly after that, Dmitri Mendeleev's mum, Maria, passed away from tuberculosis. So she performed an unbelievable job in trying to get her son into university. She never gave up. So give it up for Maria Mendeleev. So there's hafnium, silvery grey metal. It's got some amazing possible future uses as well, as a replacement for silicon in supercomputers, to make much better silicon chips, which is the clever part right in the center of a computer. All right, and thanks for watching. Next one is vanadium, which is named after the Norse goddess of beauty. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.